Do you know someone who has walked through infertility? Or maybe you have firsthand experience? Stick around because today we're going to introduce you to a local nonprofit who is stepping up to help.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shieldmaidens podcast. This is the place where we hope you'll come to be raised up to be a warrior for Christ while also learning how to fight back against the enemy. And the whole time we really just want to point you to Jesus. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Riley.
We're your hosts and we're glad that you're here today. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen in. I'll get the business out of the way first. If you are not subscribed on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. We'd love for you to do that. Share our videos, leave us a comment, anything that you need prayer for. We'd love that. And if you're listening on the audio only version, go ahead and leave us a review there. If you have one, that'll help us spread the word about what we're doing. But now that that's out of the way, we'll get to the good stuff today.
Right.
So we have a good friend with us here to have a conversation about some hard stuff, but the beauty and purpose that has come out of the hard stuff that
Right.
God's brought her through and given her purpose in it. And we're glad that she's here today. We have Amber Boyle with us.
Hi.
Yay, Amber.
Amber back with us.
Amber back with us. Amber was here on our very first.
Yeah.
Not first.
The first one we recorded.
We recorded, but it was our fourth episode.
Yeah.
So we're glad that you're back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself first, just a little bit?
Sure.
If you want to, just so if people haven't seen that, because I don't know if we introduced ourselves.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either on that one. But if you want to just tell people who you are and like what you do, your family, whatever. So
Yeah. My name's Amber Boyle, and I've been married for almost 15 years now. In May, it'll be our 15-year anniversary to Jason. We have two kids, Jackson, who's 8, and Brooklyn, who's 4.
And they're so cute.
Yes. They are.
Okay. Well, we want to hear some of your story today.
Yeah.
We do.
Whatever you're willing to share with us or want to share with us. This is a tough and touchy subject in a lot of ways, but we also know that a lot of people experience this and deal with it or have been touched by it in their lives. And so we really wanted to bring the conversation to this and highlight like you're doing some really awesome stuff in our community.
Thank you.
To help people. So we just want to hear all about it with whatever you want to share.
Right. Lots of people are afraid to talk about it or don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So we're thankful for your bravery.
Thank you.
And I know a little bit of how it turned out. So
Yeah.
I'd like to just put a platform on it.
Yeah. So it started 11 years ago, which is kind of crazy. And when I was thinking about my story to come on here, I was thinking it was just a lot of repentance, obedience, and God's grace, honestly. Yeah. So Jason and I were married in 2010, and we tried to get our life in order before we had kids. We knew we wanted 2 kids, and so we got a house, and Jason, we got real jobs, and then we planned out, to start trying for our first baby. I feel like we were doing all the right things, that we were supposed to do back then.
Yeah.
And our dear friends were going to try to have a second baby. And so we decided it would be so great if we tried to have babies at the same time so they could grow up together and be best friends like us. And she got pregnant the first month, and I did not. And so that's a terrible idea looking back at it. I don't recommend anyone do that. I know people do it, and it works out great, and their kids get to grow up together. Pressure. But yes, so she got pregnant, and it wasn't like I was upset or anything. I was very happy for her. And then not too much longer after that, probably about 4 or 5 months, I got pregnant. And so it was exciting. We're going to be pregnant at the same time. And then I miscarried at work. And so that was the beginning of a lot of hurt. So obviously you go to the doctor and they say, it's early. This happens to 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 women, they make you feel like it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a couple months and we were allowed to try again. And it took a few months. I got pregnant again. My best friend's still pregnant. So I'm like, yay, we're still going to be pregnant at the same time. I'm actually planning her baby shower. And 9 weeks in, I have another miscarriage. So back-to-back miscarriages. And so then they give you the statistics, back-to-back miscarriages are higher risk than just a miscarriage and then a baby and then a miscarriage. And so you start to have like all these like, oh gosh, am I not going to be able to have a baby? But so I planned my friend's baby shower, was actually bleeding during having a miscarriage during the shower. And so that baby was a constant reminder of my struggle, which is hard because I love the baby, but it was like I didn't want to go see him because I had nothing, which I've never told her that. So if she's listening, I mean, that's just the realness of it. So he was born in 2014, my friend's baby. We started trying in 2013. We would go down a road of just waiting, pretty much. Like, we weren't miscarrying. I just wasn't getting pregnant. And so I kind of just stopped worrying about it and just focused on fitness, honestly. Became a Les Mills body attack instructor. I was at training. It was a weekend training. And I had Clomid, which is a medication you would take before you start infertility steps, in my bag to take on the first day of my period, which was actually supposed to be that weekend. And I didn't think much about it because I'm working out for like 20 hours this crazy weekend of becoming a body attack instructor, and felt really tired but didn't think anything about it. Well, then when I got home that next Thursday, I found out I was pregnant. And so I would have Jackson in September of 2016. And so that is when we became parents, and we're just so excited. And then after that, we decided we didn't want to have any more kids because Jackson was so hard. And I remember thinking, like, I wanted this so bad, but this is so much harder than anyone had ever told me.
It's not a walk in the park.
Yeah. Sure. And so whenever he was 2, we got rid of all of our baby stuff and we were fine with just having just one. I felt like, God gave us this blessing and that was enough. And so I actually remember we saw Misty Doyle at Schnucks. We were both, we were getting a cart, Jason and I. Misty was putting one away, leaving. And she said, when are you going to have another one? And we're like, we're not. We sold all of our stuff, and she was just like, well, he needs to have a sibling, all this stuff. And so I remember thinking, like, she has absolutely lost her mind. I can barely even function with one. But it was a little bit later that Jason actually came to me and said, I think that we should try to give him a sibling. And so we started trying and got pregnant right away. And I felt like, this is great. Like, this is not what the first pregnancy was like. I felt different, and wasn't even in my mind that anything bad would happen. And around 11 weeks, I started to have cramps, and I was at work, and I just texted Jason and said, I'm just going to go to the doctor just to get an ultrasound to see, to make sure everything's fine, but I'm sure it's fine. And so I went alone, and at the ultrasound, I found out that there was no longer a heartbeat by myself, and I just remember being so mad at God, and just feeling like, how could you blindside me? I wasn't even, I'm one that's like, I've got to prepare for the worst. Like, I wasn't prepared or anything. I was in shock. And so, looking back now, there was lots of things that happened where God was changing my heart. I feel like our fleshly hearts are wicked. And during that time with Brooklyn, I remember sitting in the ultrasound room with Jason when we knew we were pregnant, and there was a high school couple in the waiting room with us, and obviously they were probably pregnant to be in the ultrasound room. And I remember thinking in my head, like, here I am doing everything right. I'm, married. I have my house, we have jobs, we are stable, and then here you are like being careless and pregnant whenever that's the only thing I've like wanted for so many years. And then whenever I had my procedure for my miscarriage for that pregnancy, that same couple was there. And they had lost their baby. And I feel like it was in that moment, God showed me like, who are you to, judge them? And it really just opened my eyes to like how God sees people. And also, I'm not innocent. And when I was a high schooler like that, that just didn't happen to me, but I was doing the same things. And I was being judgmental. And it was just really like a hit on the back. Like, it broke my heart for what breaks his. Like, seeing them in there and thinking, like, I can't imagine going through that as a high schooler. And just months before, I was sitting next to them, judging them internally. And yeah, so that's something that I feel like God has really like done to me along this process in the last 11 years, like changed my heart to see people who are struggling the way he sees them, not just my, I have it all together and you don't thoughts, my fleshly thoughts about people that I don't ever say out loud until now, but I'm, thinking it. But so after that second, before Brooklyn, that would be my third miscarriage. We had to have a procedure and to get rid of the pregnancy. And then it was like probably 6 weeks later, I still didn't feel right. And we found out that there was a mistake made and that I had to do it again. And so,
oh my goodness.
In that moment, it's like God wanted to show me, like, have grace. Like, everyone's going through something. And my doctor at the time was going through something very traumatic in her own life. And I felt like God was just really telling me, like, you stick with her and you forgive her. And she, it's not her fault. But so that happened. And then after that, my body just continued to think it was pregnant. And so for 13 weeks, I went to the doctor every week and got a blood draw so that to check my HCG levels to make sure they were at least down to 5 so that we could try again. And each week they'd be in the 500s or hundreds. And so I would sit there with pregnant women knowing that all I wanted to do is just have a 0 level. Like, that's all I wanted. And so that was just a long time of waiting. And I feel like during that time, God really worked on my heart and just gave me compassion for women sitting in the ultrasound room. And just really opened up my eyes and helped me to see there's a lot of women struggling. And he kind of put this fire in me then, like, I'm going to use you for something more than this. But I mean, back then I wasn't really walking with the Lord per se closely. And so I remember thinking that and thinking, like, whatever, that's never going to happen. Like, I don't even know why I would think that. And so we would eventually get pregnant with Brooklyn and have her in 2020 during the pandemic, April of 2020. Oh, gosh. And so, and Jackson, my first child, he was in the NICU. So I've just been like thinking, why can't I just have a normal pregnancy and delivery and like people bring me chocolates in the hospital? So that didn't happen with either kid, which is such
a disappointment.
Like
for the things you expect.
But looking back, like, it's not that big of a deal. It was great because everyone brought me meals and just put it on my porch because no one could come see me. So I didn't even have to get dressed. Everyone just dropped stuff off.
Well, that's how you do it.
That would be a perk.
So we had Brooklyn and adjusted the 2 kids. And then I would say probably a year later, I just kept hearing or envisioning this race to raise money for women who are going through infertility. And I remember I just like shoved it in my back pocket, like didn't want to tell anyone about it because, first of all, I can't do that. You're asking me to do that. I will do it. Have someone else do it, and I will support them.
Run in it.
I will do whatever you want for them, but not me. And so it was years of God just like tugging at my heart in little pieces, like Tammy asking me to come tell my story at Free to Be. And like, I remember just thinking like when she asked, in my mind thinking, no, I don't want to do that. But then like my mouth said yes. And I was like, oh gosh, like I can't talk in front of people. I can't do all these things. And so I told my story and got that out of the way and thought, that's the end of it. That's what he wanted me to do. And now this is great. And so then the next year, Free to Be, Tammy's like, I want you to tell what you told me on stage at a Mothers in Waiting meeting, which I should probably tell what that is. But sorry, I feel like I'm kind of going back and forth.
You're fine. You're great.
When I was in the waiting before Jackson, I'd had my second miscarriage around 9 weeks, and Misty called me. And I remember exactly where I was. I was in my bed feeling sorry for myself, like, I'm never going to get pregnant. Why can't my body do what it's supposed to do? Like, all these negative thoughts. And she called me and she said, this is going to be weird, but God told me to invite you over to my house and pray for a baby. And I had not told her anything about, my struggles with infertility or
she didn't
anything.
know.
No, she had no idea. Yeah,
That's awesome.
She said that God brings her the
Yeah.
women. She told us that.
Yeah. And so, first of all, I'm like in shock that God told her something about me that I haven't told her.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing was I wanted to say no because that's uncomfortable. I'm going to go to your house and someone's going to pray for me. Like, I don't know. I just had never experienced that yet.
Right.
And so I went, and Tammy was my prayer partner.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's 4 women there that day. And I think we all have now, I don't even know, 2, 4, a lot of babies. Like there's a lot of, maybe 10. I don't know. One has 4, one has triplets, and 4, 8. Yeah, 9, 11.
Wow.
I think there's 11 babies from that first Mothers in Waiting group. Yeah.
You were the very 1st.
Mm-hmm.
The first 4.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah. So I went to Mothers in Waiting for Jackson, and then I, for some reason, when I look at the whole picture now, I'm like, okay, I see why that happened. I see why I kept going to Mothers in Waiting when I wasn't in the waiting. I was just, and at that time, I didn't even pray out loud. Like I would just go, women would pray, and I would just put my hand on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like it's just all about growing. Like I feel like God's just been constantly just growing me without me even really realizing it. And so it was years later, after I had Brooklyn, we were leaving a Mothers in Waiting meeting, and I told Missy and Tammy, like, I feel like God is wanting me to do this race for infertility. And that was it. And then the next year, for Free to Be, after I had told my infertility story at the last conference, Tammy's like, how about you tell your story about your race?
Tammy's really good at talking in to doing
she
things.
likes to push.
Yeah.
Yep.
So of course,
We love you,
yes,
Tammy.
Tammy.
We do.
Yes, Tammy. I never say no to you.
She's hard to say no to. She is.
Yeah. And so I hadn't really planned or started anything for it. Just, Lucas came over and did a video at my house, and I went on stage and I told them I'm going to do this. And then immediately after, I felt like I cannot.
What did I do?
Yeah, I'm not good enough. It was like the enemy took that and just like crushed me into the ground. Like I felt like I'm not worthy. I can't do anything. And then I felt like I've let Tammy down. I've said something and there's no way I can do it. I've like set a date that it's going to be in October, and I just couldn't do it. And so at that conference, she announced a women's retreat to Mexico. And I felt like God was really calling me to go, but I didn't really know any of the women to actually ask them to be a roommate. But I ended up rooming with a woman who was amazing that I didn't really know, but that's how I got there. Just randomly asked her, would you want to be my roommate? I can't go unless you'll be my roommate. But this was before I knew that you could go and just have your own room. I didn't learn that until afterwards. But I'm so glad I roomed with Meredith. But anyways, so I would say from that conference in April until we went to Mexico in September, it was like the lowest of low. Like I remember saying like to my husband, I don't even want to go to church. Just take the kids. Like I don't even want to go. It was like from saying what I wanted to do on stage, the enemy just like got in my head and like, and I believed all of it. I believed I wasn't good enough, that people are going to see me and think, what is she doing up there? Because my past is not pretty. And so, I was just in like a funk of didn't like who I was, like didn't feel worthy of anything. And then I went to Mexico with 11 women who just spoke truth into my life, like prayed for me. And it was in those 4 days that God was able to just like completely like flip a switch from like me thinking I'm nothing to me believing like, no, this is who you are. Like, this is your identity, not in yourself, but in me. And so I came back, and my friend Carrie, who I met there, she's a real go-getter. And so like she was not going to let me not do the race. And so she would just like text me a couple weeks, like, I haven't seen a sign up. Have you registered your race yet? Have you done this?
Carrie. Love
Yeah.
her.
And so I'm like, no, but so then really it was her like pushing me and other women, like, you know, just asking me and checking in on me to actually do it. And so I finally, you know, registered for the race. But then I was like, I'm not going to ask for sponsors because what if no one shows up? I'm not going to like tell a lot of people because what if no one shows up? So I was still like internally struggling with like trusting God and like being about like, this is what I'm doing. And so then it was probably 2 weeks before the race, I started to see that people were signing up, and people were signing up that I didn't know their names. I didn't even know who they were.
Cool.
It was like, okay.
This was in 2024, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
spring.
last year.
Last year.
Yeah. And so the race came, and it was a rainy morning, and and I still felt like, oh, great. Like all these people registered. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And then it was just, people came. Every person came, I feel like. And it was really successful. And
Had a lot of people
yeah,
signed up for our first race.
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it happened. And afterwards, it was almost like I just thought, okay, God, I see it. Like, I see that it's not about me, that you are using me as a vessel for what you're trying to do with this in our community. And there was one picture of a mom that brought her daughter, and she had a picture of her little embryo, and she took it in front of the backdrop. And that is just like, gosh, that is it. Like, that is hope. That is someone who is going through IVF needs to see that little girl and see, like, you know, that story. And so I feel like it's really motivated me to bring the community together, people who have children, I've been there, people who haven't but know someone, and then the community that's still in the waiting to show them we're here supporting you. But I guess whenever I tell the story, it feels like, oh, this is rainbows and butterflies. Like, she went through this, you know, traumatic thing, and God used her pain, and then here's her purpose. But it is a constant battle. And I feel like just yesterday, it's like a wall, and I'm literally like pushing my elbow into it, like physically, like thinking like I'm going to fight to keep going, because whenever God asks you to do something that is your pain, that it's something you've walked through, and he's asking you to come beside someone else who's walking through it, it constantly brings back struggles and thoughts and emotions. And so I've had to deal with that the last year. I've had to go back and feel my feelings, which I'm not very good at. I'm the kind of person who just puts something in my back pocket and keeps going. And so I have worked with Ashley Elliott for the past year, which she's amazing. And she's really just helped me to grow and to lean into God and what he wants, you know, to do through me, and but also feel and process what I've been through so that I can be able to help other women. But I feel like sorry, I feel like I'm just talking and
we want to hear. Yeah, tell us.
I just finished the book of Job. And when I was going through it, I'm like, get it together, dude. Like, this is chapters of you, like, whoa, me, I'm all these things. But whenever I was thinking about coming on here and telling my story, it's like, I'm Job. Like, I have been Job for years. Like, when I was going through miscarriages, like, God, why can't you just give me a baby? Why can't you just like telling him what to do? And then whenever, seeing the high school students like, oh, why would you give them a baby and not me? Like, they don't even deserve that. Like, and then, like, my deliveries, they were never easy. Even with my kids, like, why can't you just give me an easy delivery? Like, really? COVID, baby? Like, the first month? Couldn't it just be a year later? It's just been, like, me being Job for years. And I didn't realize it until yesterday. Actually, I read your questions. And this whole Waymaker Miracles has pushed me to do things that I've never done before. And I'm not great at asking for help. And I feel like God's saying, no, it's yours, not theirs. Like, I need you to do it. I need you to stop. Like my husband said this morning to me, like, I'm not your crutch. And it's like, that hurt. But
because originally we were going to have you and your husband. And then just work circumstances and sick kids and things didn't happen. And
But what's funny is I feel like God's been telling me that for pretty much for a while now. And so it was just yesterday, I needed a sponsorship flyer, and I'm not very tech savvy. Actually, I'm not at all. And so I Googled how to make a form and like got on the little website. It literally took me all day. I was like, didn't understand you could copy a box and like paste the box the same size. So I'm like moving it up and down, trying to get it the exact width and length. Anyways, I remember thinking yesterday, like, this is so hard. Like, this is so hard. Like, I was literally thinking these thoughts in my mind. I'm not even getting paid for this. This is taking my entire day. Like, I am, like, I'm not mad, but like, this is a lot of work, God. Like, these like details that you have to do to put things together, a website and like all the things just to like do this work. It's a lot. And so I was literally thinking, like, had the thought in my mind, I don't even get paid for this. And I literally didn't like verbally hear God say, but it was not my own thought because I wouldn't have said this to myself.
Very distinct, yes.
He said to me, neither is your salvation. Ooh. Not free at all. And then it was just like,
hurts a little.
Like a lot. Yeah. Like that was definitely God because I wouldn't say that to myself. But yeah, it's so true. Like, this is not about you, Amber. Even though your picture might be on the website, it's not about you. And so I think my flesh sometimes worries so much about like, oh, what are they going to think about me? Is this the right picture to put on the homepage of the website? And then God quickly reminds me, just like Job, like, oh no, this is not about you. Like you need to be checked and you need to be.
Were you here when I made the earth? Right. Like God says that too. Were you here when I created all these things? Yeah. You weren't here. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Did you see me put the eagle's nest in the tree? Yeah. No, you didn't. And so I feel like my story is me constantly being like Job and me constantly going to my flesh and God constantly drawing me closer and me constantly saying, no, I don't want to do that for years. Like, I think it was probably 3 years that I knew that was what I was supposed to do. And it wasn't until I went to Mexico and then came back and my pastor was preaching on a message about like being a doer and like basically letting God use you for your purpose. And I knew he's speaking directly to me. I was like, is he staring at me? Like, I feel like
love those moments.
I've been there.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like, so it's a story of me constantly having to repent. Even yesterday, I'm so sorry, Lord. Like, I didn't mean to say that. Like, I don't want to be paid. I'm just saying, like, this is a lot of work. And it's not easy living in something and trying to do something that has been a huge hurt in my life. So yeah, that is my story. And I'm just so thankful that even when we say no and we're disobedient, he still pulls us in like, no, I'm going to keep on asking. I'm going to keep pulling all these people in to say things to you to where you'll see that my purpose is good. Like, I am good. Like, I'm going to use the pain that you went through 11 years later, and I'm going to use you to help other people who are going through it. So,
and he's so patient.
Oh yeah, way more patient than me.
Yeah. And I feel like God has been teaching me, like, he's not going to force us to do things, but he invites us into doing them with him.
Yeah.
And when I look at it that way, like he's inviting me in to do something with him. It's so much more beautiful, for one thing, but also takes the weight off of your shoulders that, like, this isn't about me. You know, like, God is going to do something and he can use somebody else other than me, but he's asked me to, you know? And so I love that. I love that you did eventually move into it. It is so beautiful. Like, and I know it's raw and hard. So thank you for sharing. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
You had this race and you raised money. Have you been able to help any families yet?
Yeah. So we had the race.
And this is an ongoing race.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
so
this isn't just a one-time thing. Yeah. Like, you got to tell us about,
Yeah, actually, before I walked in today, we booked the next one for next year. And it just happens to be on my birthday. She sent me the date and it was my birthday.
For 26?
Yeah, for 2026.
Because you have 2025 booked
So,
and going. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll tell you about 24 and then we'll go on to 25 and 26. So 24, everyone came. It was a rainy day. I was on cloud 9, like, whoa, God, you're so good.
It was
like,
so fun.
I'm so sorry
It was
that
so
I,
fun.
that I had all these, I didn't trust you fully, that I didn't, that I feel like I only like did exactly like the bare minimum to just have the race, because I wasn't sure, like, is this really what you're wanting? I'm not sure, like, am I following clearly? And then when the people came, I was like, okay, this is what you really do want this. And it's not just a race, like, it's a community event where we have fun things to do for families, and it's more of like just a morning together to support, people going through infertility in our community, more than just a run or a walk. So yeah, we had the race and we raised a lot of money, and Missy, who's my dear friend and gives me lots of advice on when I feel like I don't know what to do, and she tells me, we pray, obviously keep praying, we keep praying. So and I say Missy, but also Faith Samuel is a great woman of God in my life, and she always says, what do we keep doing if we pray and nothing happens? We keep praying. So
that's good advice.
Yeah. We keep praying, and then we look at at our situation, and we see, like, are we, what are we doing that's sinful? Are we aligned? And so anyways, I prayed for months. What am I supposed to do with the money? I don't know what to do with the money. And so we decided how we were going to move forward with the grants, that people would submit bills on our website, and that we would pay the medical facility directly for their bills, whether it's for anything for infertility, or if it's for pre-approval to start IVF or IUI. They would just submit that on there, and we would pay those bills. And so I've been in his word more and trying to be in it daily, and I'm just so I don't even know the word, overwhelmed by his grace, and that he is not only helping people in our community with infertility, he's changing me from the inside out. He's changing my confidence, because I had 0. And now it's not confidence I have in myself, but it's a confidence that I know that what I'm doing is for him. And therefore I can feel him changing my marriage and my parenting and all my things. Because I remember just this last summer, I was telling a friend in the basketball gym, like, I've got to align every part of my life with God, because if I'm going to do this, then people are going to look at me and think, like, what is she doing? Like, if I'm in Costco yelling at my kids, I don't want people to think, like, oh, isn't that the girl that's leading the Waymaker Miracles? Like, but it's, yeah. But I think God's showing me that I'm going to change you. You're not going to line your life in all these ways like you're trying to do. If you are obedient to me and you are doing what I'm asking you to do, then I'm going to start changing your heart. I'm going to start, like, helping you not yell at your kids and be kinder to your husband and care about things that I care about, and care about the high schooler who is pregnant. And so, yeah, it's just been a year for me of drawing close to the Lord. And I feel like he's probably like, it's been 11 years, Amber. Like, here we are. Like,
finally.
If you only would have said yes in, 2014. But that's not how he works, obviously. And I'm just so grateful that I get this opportunity. And it's really like how Tammy says it, free to be, like using your pain for purpose. It's like now I have this fire because I know 100% that's what it is in me. That's like, okay, how many people can we help? Like, okay, God, like what do I need to do? Because I have to work. I can't just sit back and let God do it.
Right. We
Like,
still have to do the things.
we have to do the work.
Yeah.
And I was up at Freeman Park at 4 a.m. with the deers, setting it for my race by myself and thinking like, have I lost my mind? I'm using my headlights as lights. Like, is this really? But now I see like, no, we have to lose sleep. We have to figure out how to do forms on the computer when we don't even know how to spell a word and it's not correcting me on there. We have to figure out how to put on spell check. But yeah, it's just been good. And I'm just so grateful that he's using me, that he's using my story, and for my kids to see that. And I talk about it now, like, Mommy lost 3 babies before you. And they didn't know that. Like,
Right.
and my son's 8. And so he understands.
Yeah.
And so now they can pray for people to have babies. And it's like, that's the heart. That's what he wants. Like, yeah.
Love it. Just the ripple effects.
Yes.
I was actually reading, I was up this morning doing my quiet time and like opened my journal, and it came open on a page where I had written, like, I felt like God was reminding me, like, you can see the ripple effects, like one decision or one person following after the Lord or stepping into what God's calling them into or whatever. Like, we also don't get to see all of it like God does. We don't get to see the whole big picture right now, but he gives us glimpses of like the ripple effects of what he does when we make the decision to follow him. And I just love that. Like, you can see that so beautifully in your story and in what you're doing and continuing to do. Like, this is just the beginning too.
Yeah. It's hard because you don't know what he's going to do. And so,
right.
I'm just
so like blindly trusting.
Yeah, I don't know how to make a website. I don't know how to do this.
You did.
We can
But you did
figure it out. Well, my brother helped me, but
you
it
did
looks
it. You
great.
launched your new website.
Yeah.
You just launched it, and it's beautiful.
Waymakermiracles.org.
yes,
Is that what it is?
yes.
Yeah, we'll make sure
So
we
official.
link stuff too, because we haven't really. Yeah, it's Waymaker Miracles.
And we're going to have to link the sign up for the 5K, which is
Yes.
May 31st.
May
if I remember
31st,
right.
yeah.
2025
Okay,
this year.
tell me about this virtual one though, because I'm one of those people who's not going to be here
Yeah.
on May 31st.
Yeah, so last year we actually had a couple people come from out of town, and then one of my friends was like, hey, I want to run today for you. Can you send me a shirt? And I was like, oh, yeah. So that kind of sparked it last year. But yeah, so you can do it virtually whenever you'd like, and we're just going to mail the T-shirt
I love that.
to you. Yeah, and there's even an option if you want to compete, like see how you did with all the virtual runners.
thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, something I wanted to share about how I got to the race is whenever I was going through miscarriages, exercise is something that's always been an outlet to me for my mental health. And so I remember after my second miscarriage, I actually had it at home and it was really painful. And I remember like having that thought in my mind, like of that pain. And I would just literally run until I couldn't feel it anymore. And so I feel like that was where God connected that piece with 5Ks. It's not like I'm a huge runner, and I used to run races back when I was younger, but this is just something that I didn't know how to do it. I felt like God showed me a race, and that's how I got here.
Love it.
So
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
yeah,
So you have the first one, 2024. 25's coming up. You've got 26 dates set.
That's awesome.
yeah.
And we'll definitely link your website.
What is the goal? I know last year you had 226.
Yeah.
What's the 25 goal?
Yeah. My goal is. Isn't that
Agree?
so
Say
okay?
it. It's okay.
Isn't that so
we
hard?
want you to say it.
Yeah. Okay. My goal is 500, but I
Yeah.
keep telling myself 400 is fine, Amber. But no, my
No,
goal is
we're gonna get 500.
Yeah, 500. And the thing is, this isn't. I think whenever people hear race, they think like I can't help, but there's a 1 mile walk, and this
right.
year
That's
it will
what we did
go.
last year.
Yeah. Last year we didn't really know what to expect, and we had way more signups than we anticipated. So the walkers kind of almost got taken down by a few competitive runners.
I saw one time happen, like someone yelled "Move!" really loud.
Yeah.
And I was like running through people.
Yeah. So if you're there last year, know that this year the walkers are going in different directions than the runners. So yeah, that's just a 1 mile walk. You can bring your dogs or strollers, your whole family. And then if you'd rather walk 3 miles, you can walk 3 miles, or you can run 3 miles for medals. And we're really excited. We have our shirt, but we'll have a whole morning full of fun. We've booked face paint, inflatables, balloon animals.
Well, fun.
I have a kid station, backdrops with a cool little camera. So my hope is that it brings people together for a morning to hang out with their families, not just come run and leave. Like I think the community needs to talk about it, and a lot of women are going through it by themselves. And I remember when I was going through it, like I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to tell my friends. I didn't know anyone who it had happened to. And so they didn't understand my grief with it. But when you start talking to people, a lot of people have been through it. And so, my main goal is to let people know they're not alone. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Yes.
We're excited for this year's race.
Yeah,
Josh and I will be racing with you in Florida. So
hey, that sounds
it's
amazing.
fine. We'll be part of the virtual club.
Yeah.
For sure.
The deers will be there.
Thank you.
Some former fashion last year. I was like, I told my kids and they were like, let's run it together. Let's train. I'm like, okay, I haven't really run like in some years, like really run. I used to run and I'm like, okay, we will. Well, then we didn't train. And I think I ended up helping that morning, but my husband and the 2 boys, my daughter wasn't with us for some reason, but the 2 boys, they ran it in the rain.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was fun. It was good for them. And it was just a fun morning.
Yeah.
So
that's what I hope it will be.
yeah, it really was. Like you said, just you don't have to be a runner.
No.
Anything.
I'm
like
not
even
even
a
close
walker.
to,
Like
you know.
just come. Yeah, come and
Yeah.
Just
support.
enjoy the weather.
Yeah. And even if you just want to sponsor, if your business wants to sponsor,
That's a great idea.
I finished my form yesterday.
Okay.
so we'll have that if anyone wants to.
Is all of that
sponsor.
found on your website?
Yes, and Facebook page.
And Facebook. You have Facebook. Is that your only social media? Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Okay. We'll make sure we link those for sure.
We'll link
One
that
thing
for
I did want to ask about, if we have just a couple minutes, the baskets.
Oh, yes.
You're doing something with some baskets. If you want to just a quick little blurb and then we can.
Yeah. So on our website, there's a baskets little tab. And if you know someone that's currently going through a loss, whether it be miscarriage or IVF or whatever the case, we want to put a basket on their porch. We won't contact them. We won't even knock. We'll just leave it. But it's basically just a care package and with a card in it, in Misty's book about grief that just lets them know that they're not alone and that we care.
Yeah. I love that. It's beautiful.
That's important.
Thank you.
So whether you guys have been through infertility or know someone who's walking through it, it's really important to make sure that they know they're not alone. And that's exactly what you guys are doing. So we would encourage you guys to connect with Waymaker Miracles, whether you want to be a supporter, a runner. If you need a grant and want to apply there, go to their website at waymakermiracles.org. While you're online, make sure you click to subscribe and like and comment. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, grab a shield. We'll see you out there.
See ya.